Welcome to learning activity number 9. For this activity, you have 3 main objectives. Primarily looking at children's literature for diversity, science content, and how it applies for students in different cultures. You're exploring science content through the online things that you've been looking at in pedagogy and things like that. And then you are going to continue working on your web page. So the items that are going to be turned in, children's literature assignment and your reflection for the NSTA modules that you've worked on. You can read through these. As you go down, obviously keep in mind the checklist is usually pretty helpful and handy to keep you going on what's happening. You might want to print that out and just kind of check as you go through it. So the overview of this, and kind of want you to think about books that you appreciated when you were growing up, books that your kids appreciated in the class that you're in right now. And for me, I think of Cinderella. Okay, this is where I'm at here, and I think of, all right, well, it's a fun book. It's not truthful, but students could actually look at that and say, oh, well, could you turn a pumpkin into a carriage, and how would that, what scale? So there's a lot of ways of playing with scale with that. You could talk about what a pumpkin is. You could talk about at the end how her foot has to fit in a certain size shoe, and you talk about variety in people. So there's a lot of ways that you could tie science into that. I want you to get a little creative though, and that's the point of this. I don't want you to choose books that are so obviously science that I know why you picked it. I want you to have to find it in there, and I want your kids to have, to experience a book that they love. So think about what you use. I've got some notes here of try not to use Eric Carle, The Hungry Caterpillar. A lot of his books are really pretty, but they don't meet the needs of this. Because I also want you to think about the culture of your classroom and the culture that is represented in these children's books. So there's a sign-up sheet for this materials review. Please don't replace anyone else's name and don't sign up for a duplicate book. So as in before, discussion expectations. If you are a traditional group, you're going to post to the discussion board, respond to at least 2 people, and then you're going to review kind of what everybody else did, because this should give you some good ideas, some new ideas on how to use children's literature in your classroom to teach science. Now, if you're a Hangout group, you're going to post to the discussion board. I want to see everybody's book there. Because if you think about it, you have 32 people in the class, or a large class. You're going to get that many more examples of ways to teach something. And then everybody should review the book titles. So then this last part, connecting to the NSTA modules. You've been asked throughout the semester to look at either a content module and 2 articles, or 2 articles and 2 content modules and 1 article. So depending upon what you looked at, I want you to kind of sit back and think about what you learned from the whole thing. What was a common theme that ran through each of those assignments that you did, and how that kind of helped you learn to be a better science teacher. If it did, there's a rubric that you can click and go and look at. I also have it in the top. I'll show you where that's at. And then there's a couple of other little questions to kind of think about right through there. So let's go back to learning activity 9. Make that smaller. I've given you some examples of material reviews and a video of instructions. So another option for the sign-up sheet and the rubric for that materials review. So this is where you'll turn that in. I'm not asking that you put that in the Dropbox. I will grade it from the discussion board with the rubric that you see up here. And then these NSTA reflections. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. You should be able to look at the rubric right here. And this is in the link. This is just what's actually in the page right now, but it's 15 points. I'm anticipating 1 to 1.5 pages, a common theme that connects across all of them. You may have to think a little bit. It may not be something that's completely obvious of, oh, it's all about the moon, or it's all about science. Well, yeah, it's all about science. But what is something that happens in each of those that is kind of helping you understand how to be a better science teacher? So that's kind of where that one is at. Just close that. And those are the two things that you have that need to be turned in for this learning activity. You have a week to complete it, and please let me know if you have questions.